Welcome back, my beloved squire. Tonight, we unfold a tale not of crowns or kingdoms, but of a warrior cast aside. A chronicle of pride misunderstood, of bonds severed in silence, and of a blade that refuses to forget its master. There are those who devote themselves to one path, and there are those who dare to walk many. The world may call them unfocused. The dungeon calls them something else. Steel your heart, for in the dim, echoing depths of the dungeon, a young boy named Orun danced with death and steel. Let us begin.
The House of Anime recap.
In the dim and echoing depths of the dungeon where torchlight flickered like dying stars against cold stone, a lone figure moved with quiet precision. His name was Orun, and on that day, steel answered to him as faithfully as ever. Horned rabbits, grotesque little tyrants of the lower floors, leapt from the shadows with feral shrieks. Their twisted horns gleamed, their claws scraped stone. They never reached him. His blade flashed once, twice, then thrice. Each stroke was measured, economical, final. They fell not as beasts slain in chaos, but as offerings laid before a master of the craft. There was no wasted motion, no desperation, only discipline. And in that rhythm of steel, Orun felt something he had feared lost. His sword had not forgotten him. But the dungeon is a place that does not permit reflection for long. From the deeper corridors, a chorus of snarls erupted. Goblins, dozens, perhaps more. They poured forth like rot unsealed, crude blades raised, eyes glinting with hunger. Orun did not retreat. Instead, he exhaled slowly. Then with deliberate focus, he invoked a spell. An enchantment meant not for solitude, but for fellowship. Support magic, a warrior's boon designed to strengthen allies, not oneself. For the briefest moment, hesitation brushed against his thoughts. Such magic was never intended for a single blade, but he was alone. And alone would have to suffice. Mana surged through him, veins alight with borrowed might. Steel met flesh, magic sang through sinew. The first goblin fell, then the second, then 10 more. They kept coming. He counted, not enemies. Seconds, 2.5 minutes. That was the lifespan of his enchantment. 2.5 minutes between supremacy and exposure. His movements sharpened, his breathing steadied. When the spell waned, he renewed it without falter. Timed perfectly, woven seamlessly between strikes. Again and again, each renewal precise, each decision calculated. Few adventurers would dare walk such floors alone, juggling blade and incantation with relentless balance. But Orun did not falter, because this was who he had become. Not merely a swordsman, not merely a caster, but something between. And as the final goblin collapsed into the dust, his thoughts, as they often did in solitude, drifted backward. 2 nights prior, to the moment everything had fractured. He could still see Oliver's face in the lantern glow, once a brother, now a judge. At first, Orun had laughed. Surely it was jest. Surely 8 years of shared blood and battle could not dissolve in a single sentence. But Oliver's gaze had been unmoving, unforgiving. This is where we part ways. The words had cleaved deeper than any blade. Annery stood beside him, silent, arms folded. Derek's shadow loomed behind. "You slow us down," Annery had said, her tone sharper than tempered steel. "You try to do everything and master nothing." Derek agreed without hesitation. Orun did not feel criticized. He felt severed. 8 years. 8 years since he and Oliver, boys with reckless dreams, had formed their party. From obscurity, they had climbed, floor by floor, until the world hailed them as conquerors of the 94th floor of the great dungeon of the South. They had been called heroes, S-ranked, untouchable, and now expendable. Orun had begged, not for status, not for pride, but for understanding. He had spoken of the original spells he had forged in the dungeon's deepest chambers, the magic that had saved them when annihilation loomed. But Oliver had already seen something else. Other S-ranked parties, enchanters of overwhelming specialization, masters of singular craft. And in that comparison, Orun had been judged insufficient. Choose the blade, Derek had insisted. You abandoned it. I strengthened it, Orun had replied. But the verdict had already fallen. The apology came quietly, without ceremony, without warmth. And so Orun departed into the night, not defeated, but dismissed. Anari's final words echoed still. Jack of all trades, a faint scoff. A fool who believes he can carry every burden alone. Orun had not answered, because no defense could mend what had already broken. And in the silence that followed, a question lingered. Was he truly unfocused? Or had he simply refused to confine himself to one narrow path? Deep within the dungeon's shadows, blade still warm with battle, Orun tightened his grip. If the world demanded specialization, then perhaps it had yet to witness what true balance could become. His former comrades had no idea what they had just cast aside. Back in the present, Orun no longer fled from the accusation once hurled at him. Jack of all trades, he embraced it, not as mockery, but as truth. He walked now as both swordsman and enchanter, blade and incantation bound within a single will, no longer divided, no longer uncertain. If the world believed mastery demanded singular devotion, then he would master both. Silently, within the echoing hush of the dungeon, he made a vow. Never again would he be dismissed. Never again would he be measured and found insufficient. He would become undeniable. The floor lay cleared. The air still carried the scent of blood and spent mana. Orun approached the teleportation crystal and found chaos. Adventurers were fleeing. Armor clattered. Voices trembled. Fear rippled through the chamber like cold wind through broken stone. They're everywhere. We had no choice. She only joined today. The words tumbled over one another. An orc pack, an ambush gone wrong. A girl left behind. Their leader, eyes wide, resolve fractured, claimed the decision had been forced. She was new. We couldn't risk everyone for one. One, the word echoed. Orun's gaze hardened. He had heard that logic before. Different floor, different faces, same verdict, expendable. The memory struck him like a bell tolling in the dark. For a moment, silence gathered around him. Then his voice came, cold, controlled, immovable. You abandoned her. No accusation, no shout, only fact. He demanded the location. They hesitated. He did not. With a final look that cut deeper than rebuke, Orun turned and ran. The deeper corridor reeked of iron and fear. He found her where the survivors had said, a young enchanter, alone. A fragile barrier flickered around her, thin, trembling, seconds from collapse. Orcs pressed in from every side, tusks glinting, axes raised. Her mana was nearly spent. Her voice, hoarse from shouting, pierced the gloom. And then, wind erupted. Orun descended upon the battlefield like a storm given form. A gale burst outward, hurling the nearest orcs back in a violent sweep. He did not pause, he did not speak. He cast the strengthening spell upon himself and entered the fray. His blade moved with lethal elegance. Orcs fell in disciplined succession, each strike precise, each movement balanced between steel and spellcraft. The girl watched through fading vision, unable to discern. Was he swordsman or enchanter? The answer was both, and neither alone. When the final orc collapsed into silence, the barrier shattered, not in defeat, but in relief. The girl fell to her knees. Tears streamed freely, not of weakness, but of survival. Orun offered no grand speech. He simply extended a hand and led her out. At the dungeon's mouth, when safety had fully returned, he prepared to depart. He had done what was necessary, nothing more, but she stopped him. "My name is Sophia Claudel." The name struck him like distant thunder. "Claudel!" Recognition stirred. He inclined his head. "Orun." Brief, courteous, he turned to leave once more. Sophia stepped forward again. "Please, allow me to offer thanks, at least a meal." He refused at first, calm, polite, distant, but her persistence was not born of obligation, it was sincere. And sincerity, he found, was harder to deflect than hostility. At last, he agreed. She led him to a shop bearing the crest of a silver rabbit. The symbol was embroidered upon her cape as well. Orun understood instantly. The silver rabbits, prestigious, selective, influential. Inside stood a woman whose presence commanded the room before a word was spoken. Selma Claudel, Sophia's elder sister. Authority radiated from her posture. Her gaze sharpened at once. "You brought a man?" Her tone suggested scandal more than gratitude. Sophia protested, flustered. Selma's eyes shifted to Orun. Assessment, calculation, recognition. He knew her as well. The leader of the strongest S-rank party within the guild. The continent's most formidable enchanter, the architect of the rigid role specialization doctrine that now governed elite adventuring. They had met briefly during a joint raid weeks prior, and soon after. He had been cast aside. The timing was not lost on him. But he buried the thought. This was not that battlefield. Selma's scrutiny did not waver. "Are you pursuing my sister?" she asked, voice edged with warning. "I seek only food," Orun replied evenly. "I harbor no designs upon her." His blunt honesty only irritated her further. Sophia intervened at last. "He saved my life." The room shifted. Selma's expression softened, just slightly. Gratitude tempered suspicion. Then realization dawned. "You entered the dungeon alone?" Sophia fell silent. Selma exhaled sharply. She had planned to forbid such recklessness in 2 days' time. Sophia had simply preempted the order. A scolding followed, firm, controlled, protective, but beneath it lay relief. And beneath that, respect. She turned to Orun once more. This time not as interrogator, but as evaluator. A swordsman who cast like an enchanter who fought like a warrior, a man dismissed as unfocused, who had just saved her sister's life alone. And in Selma's calculating eyes, a quiet question began to form. Had the world misjudged him, or had it failed to understand him entirely? The tension at the table softened. Steam rose from warm dishes. The clink of utensils replaced suspicion. Selma, her posture easing at last, recalled the joint raid from weeks past. Her words carried both memory and respect. She spoke of the chaos of that battle, how waves of monsters had threatened to overwhelm even seasoned warriors, and how, in that decisive hour, Orun's support magic had altered the flow of fate itself. "It was your enchantment," she said calmly, that stabilized the front line. Without it, we would have lost momentum. Sophia's eyes widened. "You're famous?" she asked, wonder unguarded. Selma answered before Oren could deflect the notion. He belonged to the hero's party. The words lingered in the air. Oren exhaled slowly. "Belonged," he corrected, voice even, past tense. He admitted it plainly, dismissed mere days prior. No embellishment, no self-pity, only fact. Now he walked alone. Selma's gaze sharpened, not with judgment but calculation. Opportunity had revealed itself. "There is a training expedition tomorrow," she began, her tone deliberate. "A teaching trial, 50 floors." She explained further. A-rank veterans would guide novices through the dungeon's early layers. Floor bosses, those that emerged every 10 levels, would be handled by experienced adventurers, clearing the path while the recruits learned survival within structured danger. Normally, such advancement would take months, but sponsors demanded speed, results. Selma had secured a shortcut. 3 days. From the first floor to the 51st, a compressed crucible. She leaned slightly forward. "We need veterans, those who understand pacing, threat assessment, tactical control." Her eyes held his. "You are one." She offered generous pay and respect, but Oren's thoughts did not dwell on coin. He remembered the accusation, "Your magic is insufficient. Choose one path." He had already made a vow in the dungeon's depths. If he walked forward, it would not be as a half measure. "I will not serve as an enchanter," he said calmly. "If I join, it will be as a swordsman." Sophia's expression faltered, then brightened with hope. Selma did not object. Intrigue flickered behind her composure. Very well, she thought. If necessity arose, he would return to magic of his own accord. "Visit the Silver Rabbit's Hall at dawn," she said, "if you choose to walk with us." Oren inclined his head, then departed. Opportunity lingered behind him like a door left slightly ajar. Before dawn's first light, Orun entered a small, familiar shop. The scent of aged wood and brewed tea greeted him like an old companion. The proprietor, an elderly man with perceptive eyes, poured tea with unhurried care. Steam rose between them like silent conversation. Business had improved recently. The old man thanked him. Orun did not smile. "I can no longer promote your shop," he said plainly. "I am no longer of the hero's party." The old man studied him for a long moment, then chuckled softly. "A title," he said, voice like weathered timber, "does not define the man who bears it." He set the cup down gently. "You have always aided others without fanfare. Continue to do so. Live for yourself. That is enough." The words settled deeply, not as command, but as permission. By dawn, Orun stood before the Silver Rabbit's guild hall. Selma awaited him, as though she had known he would come. "I am glad," she said quietly. "You look lighter than yesterday." Orun bowed. "Leaving that party lifted a weight I did not know I carried. The road ahead feels clear." Inside, he was greeted by Vince, head of the Silver Rabbits, measured, observant. "I have heard of you," Vince said, respect woven into the acknowledgement. Selma outlined the expedition in detail. Day 1 to the 21st floor, Day 2 to the 36th, Day 3 onward to the 51st. Compressed danger, controlled escalation. Selma had already informed Vince of Oren's dismissal. Vince had expressed quiet regret. "The hero's party will feel your absence," he had said earlier. Now, standing before Orun, that sentiment deepened. A swordsman, an enchanter, dismissed for being neither singular enough. And yet, the guild leader could already sense it. Some losses weaken a party, others empower the one who walks away. Selma did not retract her earlier praise. If anything, she sharpened it. His magic lacked spectacle, she admitted before Vince. No roaring infernos, no catastrophic displays. But spectacle is not supremacy, she spoke with measured certainty. His casting speed is 4 times my own. The words were not offered lightly. Fourfold, and his magic. Original, intuitive, unorthodox. She continued, he reads the battlefield as though fate whispers its next movement to him. He sees the enemy's intent before it manifests. He strengthens at the precise instant it matters. A pause. He is a true enchanter. Without him, she said plainly, the hero's party had lost its edge, and for the first time in months, the Silver Rabbits glimpsed a path to reclaiming first rank. Oren soon learned the full structure of the expedition. 10 rookie parties, 5 escort units, Selma and Oren among them. The rookies would engage ordinary foes. The escorts would intervene only in dire necessity. Why so few? Oren asked quietly. The plan was ambitious, perhaps reckless. Selma's answer came measured. Pressure accelerates growth. She did not elaborate. He sensed deeper strategy, political motives, sponsor expectations. But he did not press. He had chosen to walk this road, and so he agreed. Vince presented compensation, 2 gold coins in advance, 10 upon completion, a year's sustenance. Oren hesitated. Gold carried weight, not merely in coin, but in memory. He had once fought for glory. Now he fought for himself. Selma spoke before pride could intervene. We value you highly. There was no manipulation in her voice, only truth. He accepted, and with acceptance came resolve. If he walked this path, he would walk it fully. At dawn, the guild assembled at the dungeon gate. Armor gleamed beneath the pale morning light. Selma stood composed. Sophia approached beside her. Oren's gaze lingered upon Sophia's attire, rookie garb. He inclined his head. It suits you. She flushed instantly. Selma noticed. You are too skilled at flattering women, she observed dryly. Do you have a lover? He answered with unguarded candor. No. Life among many women in the hero's party had merely refined his speech. Selma accepted the explanation. Sophia asked where he lodged. At an inn, he replied. I seek a home of my own. Selma's eyes narrowed briefly at her sister. Sophia reassured her with a small shake of the head. The tension dissolved. The task reclaimed their focus. Selma introduced him to the other escorts, Anthem and Bernard, defenders, Kathy, healer, Selma, attacker, and Oren, a swordsman. He studied the formation carefully. Attacker, defenders, healer, and what had once been enchanter. A subtle imbalance whispered through his thoughts. Without him, duplication would have been necessary, a structural flaw. Selma noticed his silence. She recalled her earlier conversation with Vince. Losing such a prodigy had been painful. Yet for balance's sake, Oren could not be placed in the first group. That had been last year's logic. Now, he insisted on fighting as swordsman. If he faltered, the expedition's equilibrium would fracture. But Selma did not allow uncertainty to surface. She stepped forward. Her voice carried authority. 3 harsh days lie ahead. She addressed the rookies. Their faces were taut with anticipation and fear. Do you fear the middle floors so soon? The question hung heavy. She did not wait for response. You need not. Her hand gestured toward Orun. I have brought you a helper. She spoke his name. She spoke of the 94th floor, of depths none present had conquered, of battles survived in the great dungeon's southern abyss. Admiration rippled through the rookies. Whispers followed. Orun felt heat rise to his face. This was not his intention. Selma saw it and continued regardless. Courage required symbols, and today, he would be one. "Stand by," she commanded. She departed for final preparations with the escorts. Orun murmured quietly, "You overstate my legend." Selma paused, turned. "You conquered the 94th floor." Her voice softened but did not waver. "It is our duty to give them confidence." He could not argue, yet unease lingered. He had once worn the mantle of hero for trivial reasons, to help an old man's shop thrive. Now, the mantle returned, heavier than before, and he could not help but wonder whether praise, once again, would invite something far more dangerous than monsters. Selma did not hesitate. With her customary, unshakable authority, she assigned Orun to escort Group 10, her most promising rookies. "If they function as one," she said calmly, "the middle floors will not hinder them." Orun inclined his head, yet a shadow flickered behind his eyes. Promise, when untested, is merely potential, and potential, placed in the hands of the inexperienced, is always a gamble. The weight of responsibility settled upon him at once. He approached the group. Sophia stood among them, her presence steady, almost luminous in its quiet composure. She was the anchor, gentle, observant, grounded. But as Orun's gaze swept across the formation, something gave him pause. 3, only 3. He had expected 4. "Is this the full party?" he asked. "It is," Logan answered confidently. 3-person rookie parties were rare and dangerous. With fewer roles to distribute, every weakness widened, every mistake carried heavier consequence. Orun did not voice his concern, he merely noted it. Logan stepped forward first. "I am Logan," he declared, eyes alight with ambition. "One day I will surpass Selma herself." Audacious, yet not hollow. There was power in his stance, instinct in his posture, skill perhaps still rough but undeniably present. Orun marked him carefully. Ambition fuels growth, but it also feeds arrogance. Caroline followed. Her stance was poised, light on her feet, no shield, no visible armor. "You rely on evasion?" Orun asked. "Yes," she replied evenly. "I prefer not to be struck at all." Such a path demanded precision beyond her years. One misstep, and evasion became vulnerability. Logan dismissed caution outright, boasting of ignored warnings from his clan. Carolyn countered quietly. He, too, had ignored his mentors. Brilliance, defiance, skill, and pride. Orun saw it clearly. A trio bound by talent and risk. Sophia spoke last. "I will act as rear support," she said softly. "Offensive casting." Her voice carried calm authority. Balance. She was the thread holding the group's structure together. And Orun, though he did not show it, felt reassured by her presence. As they descended into the dungeon's cold corridors, the silence stretched thin. Caroline broke it first. "Why does a former hero walk among us?" she asked, genuine curiosity bright in her eyes. "Does this mean the silver rabbits no longer see the heroes as rivals?" Orun's answer was measured. "You heard Selma. I am no longer a member of that party." He paused. "This matter does not concern you." There was no cruelty in his tone and only boundary. Caroline tilted her head. "To leave such a famed party, it seems wasteful, not mockery. Honesty." Orun did not indulge the conversation further. Some matters were earned through experience, not explanation. The topic shifted naturally. "Did you know Sophia before this?" Caroline asked. "A brief encounter," he replied. Sophia spoke then, cheeks faintly colored. "He saved my life." Caroline's eyes widened. Sophia continued, more certain now. With him here, I feel safe. She glanced ahead, and Selma said the same. Orun did not respond, but he felt the weight of expectation deepen. The dungeon answered their descent with movement. Monsters emerged from shadowed alcoves, snarling, hunched, hungry. Yet before the rookies could react, the ground shifted. A glyph flared. Orun's trap activated. The creature vanished in a controlled burst of restrained magic. Another approached from behind. Another trap triggered, silent, efficient, invisible. The party moved forward unhindered. Caroline glanced around, startled. Was that... Continue walking, Orun said calmly. Floor by floor, he wove the dungeon itself into their ally. Arcane snares, pressure-triggered sigils, mana-efficient bindings. He conserved energy with deliberate precision. By the 20th floor, he halted briefly. He observed the rookies. Their breathing remained steady, their formation intact, their reactions sharpened. For now, they were ready. But Orun knew something they did not. The lower floors test coordination, the middle floors test resolve, and beyond that, the dungeon begins to judge. As they pressed deeper into the dungeon, Orun's judgment of Logan grew more measured. Pride, yes, but beneath it, authentic talent. The boy's grasp of enchantment was not shallow mimicry. His spell work was clean, instinctive. With discipline, true discipline, he could one day stand among A-rank parties with confidence. Raw ability, Orun knew, was never enough. Without restraint, it devoured itself. Caroline, agile and relentless, moved too far ahead at times. Twin daggers flashed in confident arcs, but a party of three left little margin for error. Evasion demanded perfection, perfection demanded experience, and experience was earned through survival. Still, her potential was undeniable. Sophia remained the quiet constant. No glaring weakness, no reckless excess. Her casting was composed, measured, efficient. She exceeded rookie standards. In her steadiness, Orun glimpsed something rare, a foundation. He catalogued them all: strength, weakness, temperament, the subtle fractures that could widen under pressure, the delicate equilibrium upon which survival depended, and quietly, he understood. If disaster struck, the burden would fall to him. The 20th floor boss fell beneath the coordinated strength of the escort units. The rookies watched, learned, and advanced. On the 21st floor, progress was formally registered upon guild cards, meticulous record-keeping, the ritual acknowledgement of growth. Outside, crisp morning air met them like cool absolution. Selma turned to him. Was the escort to your satisfaction? There was amusement in her tone. Orun studied Group 10 from a distance. They possess promise, he said at last, but lack unity. A pause. Caroline concerns me most. Selma laughed softly. Caroline has improved greatly. Orun blinked once. He chose not to ask how poor she must have been before. They parted beneath a sky strewn with distant stars, each lost in private thought. The following morning, Orun unfolded the newspaper at his inn and stilled. The name struck him like a blade. Oliver, bold ink, public declaration. The heroes' party had already appointed a new enchanter. His dismissal was no longer rumor, it was spectacle. With a sharp motion, he slammed the paper down. Heat surged through him. Did they not understand the timing, the cruelty? Could they not have waited until the expedition ended? Now the rookies would see him differently, not as veteran, but as discarded. He left early, before bitterness could root too deeply. On the crowded street, a familiar voice called his name. Luna. Her presence was steady, sincere. She had always treated him as equal, Even when others' patience thinned, her absence on the night of his dismissal had been significant. Perhaps fate itself had shifted in that moment. "Return," she urged quietly. "We need you." He had expected as much from her. He had not expected it to hurt. "The article changes nothing," she continued. "I will speak to them." Her conviction was unwavering, but Orun's heart tightened. "This is not what I want," he said gently. She clasped his hands. "Do you remember our vow to clear the great dungeon together?" The memory pierced him. Laughter in younger days, dreams unburdened by politics. "I made that vow with Oliver," he answered softly, "and since he cast me out, it cannot be kept." Silence lingered. Luna said nothing more. He stepped back and walked on, leaving behind childhood promises, leaving behind what could have been. In his chest, something mourned. By the time he neared the dungeon gate, unease had settled heavily upon him. The article's accusation, its quiet implication of weakness, echoed still as he approached the rendezvous point. He heard it. Whispers, rookies murmuring. Why didn't he tell us? Was he really removed? The shift in tone was subtle, but unmistakable. Selma arrived swiftly. Her presence cut through the murmurs like a blade through silk. "I owe an apology," she announced calmly, for referring to Orun as a current member of the hero's party. The rookie stiffened. Selma's gaze did not waver. "He walks his own path now." There was no shame in her voice, only authority. Yet the damage, however slight, had already begun, and Orun understood something deeply uncomfortable. Battles in the dungeon were simple, clear. Monsters did not whisper, men did. Selma finished her apology. Orun shook his head gently. "No apology is necessary," he said, voice steady. "I was unclear about my past." He paused, then added with calm conviction, "Whatever the article claims, I reached the 94th floor yesterday. Ink cannot erase that." Caroline nodded almost at once. Sophia's trust did not waver. "But Logan..." Logan's eyes sharpened. "Is the report true?" he asked plainly. Orun met his gaze. Mostly, he did not evade. "I was removed for perceived weakness." A subtle weight lingered on that word. "But weakness," he continued evenly, "exists only within the judgment of those who measure it." Silence followed. "I can guide you to the 51st floor, he concluded. "That remains unchanged." Some accepted it. Logan did not fully. But doubt, once planted, is not easily uprooted. They descended once more. Their goal, the 35th floor. Orun remained largely passive through the lower levels, observing, calculating, preparing. The dungeon did not test them yet. By the 31st floor, his demeanor shifted. He halted them with a raised hand. "Formation!" His voice carried quiet command. Goblins lurked ahead, clustered, waiting. Caroline, bold and impulsive, lunged forward before instruction fully settled. Her confidence nearly courted disaster. Orun prepared to instruct Logan to cast support, but Logan moved first. He presumed guidance unnecessary from one who had been cast aside. Orun felt the thought and let it pass. An orc emerged from shadow. Sophia froze. Old fear, dungeon memory, rose like a specter. Logan stepped forward, questioning, judging, but Orun did not speak. He simply cast. A slowing curse, subtle, unseen. The orc's advance faltered. Time bent slightly in their favor. Sophia inhaled, regained herself, and unleashed a precise fire javelin. It struck cleanly. The orc fell. Caroline praised her immediately. Orun inclined his head in approval. Logan stared. The timing, the invisibility, the perfection. Something shifted behind his eyes. By the 35th floor, the dungeon revealed its fangs. A monstrous tarantula descended from above, its limbs grotesquely long, its body armored in coarse bristles. Logan faltered. Retreat hovered on his lips. Oren's voice cut through the panic. Speed, strength, magic enhancement. Logan obeyed. Caroline drew aggro with nimble precision, darting in and out of Venom's reach. Sophia gathered air mana. Oren calculated. Air slashes severed 4 of the spider's legs. The creature crashed violently to stone, but the fight was not over. Threads shot outward. Caroline was caught mid-movement. Strength and speed buffs surged, but were insufficient. Without fanfare, without announcement, Oren layered a sharpness enchantment onto her blade. The edge gleamed briefly. Caroline's strike cut clean through silk. She freed herself. Sophia's rock bullet ended the battle. Silence followed. Back on the surface, Orun praised them openly. You adapted. He did not overstate. He did not flatter. The next day would bring the final ascent. Selma instructed rest, but Orun's evening held another path. 2 supervisors invited him to dine. He accepted. Laughter and tavern warmth met him. Stories traded, ale poured, camaraderie rekindled in quieter form. Elsewhere, Group 10 walked home. Logan was silent. He turned to Sophia. Tell me again when he saved you. She described it. The wind, the enchantment, the sword, the swift dismantling of orcs. Logan's mind pieced it together. A sharpness spell. Rare, difficult, layered seamlessly mid-combat. And yet, he wielded a blade as though born to it. He fights as an attacker now, Sophia said softly. Logan stared ahead. Earlier, he had believed Oren dismissed for inadequacy. Now, he had seen precision. Slowing curses placed exactly when needed. Invisible support. Strategic foresight. He had witnessed mastery hidden beneath restraint. Caroline glanced at him. Is he strong with a sword? Yes, Sophia answered without hesitation. He saved me. Logan's resolve crystallized. He would not question Orun again. He would learn, grow, and one day stand as his equal. Elsewhere, beneath the amber glow of tavern lanterns, Orun sat among the supervisors. Ale was poured. Laughter drifted across the wooden beams. Stories of past raids surfaced, of narrow escapes, fractured shields, and victories hard won. When the subject turned to the hero's party, the warmth dimmed slightly. Orun did not embellish. He spoke plainly. He had run errands, maintained supplies, handled the unseen burdens that allowed brilliance to flourish at the front. And yet, he had been labeled useless. The word lingered in the air. The supervisors exchanged glances. They had seen enough adventurers rise and fall to know the cost of misjudgment. Their quiet support stirred something within him, gratitude and clarity. Why abandon enchantment? One asked. Why stand on the front line now? Orun leaned back slightly. My true ambition, he said, voice low but unwavering, is to become a swordsman. Not merely one who swings steel, but one who endures. A jack of all trades, he continued, capable of surviving even the deepest floors alone. The statement was not boastful. It was resolute. He spoke then of his grandfather, a man who had walked the dungeon without reliance upon others, whose balance of blade and skill had inspired Orun's earliest dreams. Why become an enchanter at all? Another pressed. Orun's gaze softened with memory. In those early days, their party had faced monsters too strong to conquer by steel alone. Selma's role system had been evolving. They needed an enchanter, and so he adapted. He laid down the sword. He picked up magic, not because he lacked ambition, but because the party required it. Together, they climbed, floor by floor, until the 94th, a summit and a warning. He spoke quietly then. The pace exceeded our readiness. The room grew still. The heroes' party, as it stands now, could not conquer the 94th floor again. To attempt it would not be bravery. It would be pride. His companions sensed the strain in his voice. They shifted the subject gently. What kind of swordsman do you intend to become? The fire returned to his eyes. A jack-of-all-trades swordsman, he answered. One who can survive the deepest floors alone. No reliance, no dismissal, no fragile balance dependent on others' judgment. The supervisors nodded. In that moment, the words did not sound like arrogance. They sounded inevitable, and yet dawn brought irony. The following day, as Oren approached the dungeon gate, he saw them, the heroes' party, Oliver at the front, Annery composed, Derek resolute, and at their side, a new enchanter. They strode toward the dungeon with the unmistakable bearing of challenge. Their destination, the 94th floor, the very trial Orun had warned against, a venture driven not by calculation, but by pride, or perhaps by the need to prove something. The air grew heavier. Unspoken tension passed between former comrades. Oliver's gaze met Oren's only briefly. Neither spoke, neither bowed, neither yielded. Two parties, two paths, one dungeon, and somewhere in its depths, a floor that had already judged them once. If pride walks where preparation falters, then the great dungeon of the South does not forgive. And this time, it will not choose sides. And thus, the first chapter comes to an end. Oren walks alone. The heroes walk to prove they never needed him. But the 94th floor remembers. And this time, it may demand more than victory. Return, my loyal squire, when next the chronicle is opened. For the dungeon's verdict has yet to be spoken.